O'clock. Call to order the August 10th meeting
I hope all that chatter
Of
wasn't
the,
just recorded.
of the Cold Spring Planning Board. Chair's remarks, nothing. We are still looking for 3 replacement members. I think I don't know how much of it has to do with probably the summer. You know, there's not a whole lot of folks around. Hopefully we'll get some interest pretty soon. I'll check with Dave Morandi as well as the village clerk to make sure it's still been, I haven't seen an email on it in a while.
I haven't seen any advertisement on it.
Yeah, so I'll talk to, that's obviously doesn't help. So, we've got approval of minutes. We did get a couple sets of
How
minutes.
about Joe?
My Joe?
Yeah.
Joe Patrick? Oh.
You're Joe.
Oh, mine? Oh, I don't think he could do it. I thought it would be a conflict too, wouldn't it?
Why would it be a conflict?
I don't know, that's why I told because Stephanie Hawkins wants to join the board. I said, there's no reason why you can't. She said she wasn't sure. I said, it's just a very small village. You can't not be related to somebody. And yeah,
Well, how about Stephanie too?
I think she'd be good. I think she's very detail oriented. She'd be great.
So there's 2 spots, right?
Yeah.
2 candidates right there.
I think Joe would say.
Do I get a finder's fee?
Yeah.
Joe,
Yeah.
Joe would have concerts, homework.
Yeah, his teaching,
you
yeah.
know.
And the whole summer off?
Yeah, boy, that's right.
You don't really
To
have
spend on the
summer
porch.
off.
No?
He does.
Isn't he like doing preparation and stuff?
Doesn't seem to be. He's actually switching schools now, though. So
Oh, okay.
we have a couple sets of minutes. They're pretty brief. If we can remember back to.
We have to make sure that, see, I can't approve that set because I wasn't there,
Hold on.
so,
Well, then we don't have enough to vote on that. If you-
yeah.
Yeah, so the 525.
We can't vote on that
The
one.
525, right? This is pretty sick. That was just the public hearing for Cafe Rincon.
Yeah. So there wasn't any record here of the requirement that they will have filled the other issue, that there was the stop work order, remember?
It's all in the resolution.
Oh,
The conditions of the resolution.
okay, so.
Was either to provide a C of A for the fence and the fence and the deck.
Doesn't that have to be the resolution in
It's usually just added to the back.
minutes? Okay, all right. then
We've all
fine with
reviewed
me.
that. And so it's a C of A, either provide the C of A or get a C of A. And
Right.
the C of A was there. The way it was written, I think it was clear that they were approving the relocation of the fence, but their intent was just to approve the design of the fence. And I said, well, unfortunately, a year has
Right.
passed and the resolution,
So you don't think any of that needs to be in the minutes? Because the resolution
attached the
has a
resolution,
CFA.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, then I'm cool.
Yeah, okay, all right, very good. A motion to accept the 525 minutes as.
I move to accept.
Second? Okay, all approved?
Yay.
Aye.
Aye, great. Okay, report of members, anybody got anything? Reports, nobody? Okay. Correspondence, we have a letter in from Sue Costigan to the planning board. I'm writing to remind you of the situation at the property line between my property, 126 Main Street, my neighbor, 124 Main Street, Hussein Abel Haiti. In preparation for renovation project 126 Main, a survey was prepared by Beatty and Watson. Upon review of the survey, it seems that there are items from the neighboring property at 124 Main that are actually over the property line and on the property at 126 Main. You can see details of the items on the existing conditions and removals plan that was provided for you at our July 13th meeting. I provided Mr. Abel Hattie with a copy of the above-mentioned plan and asked that the items to the cross-property line be moved to his own property as he completes his renovation. I also informed Mr. Greg Warner, the Phillipstown Code Enforcement Officer, about the items. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Sue Costigan, member SCGY Properties. So I think we have Sue's.
That's
Yeah.
the 126.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We have so Karen's here who is representing Sue on that same application. This is really going to require like a land use attorney
Yeah.
because the planning board can't really get involved in neighbor disputes.
Right.
I'll check, but I'm pretty sure about this. So what you don't want is an adverse possession claim, right?
Yeah.
Do you know how that works?
Well, the building inspector explained his interpretation, but I'd love to hear yours.
Of adverse possession?
Yeah.
Well, so and I'm not a lawyer, So adverse possession basically means that following whatever state you're in, trespass laws, that you have to remedy a trespass within that statute of limitations. As I understand it correctly, the trespass statute in New York State is 3 years.
Uh-huh.
So if somebody were to put a fence on your yard for 3 years, and you go into year 4, they actually have the ability to claim that property.
Uh-huh.
That's what adverse possession is in the broadest sense. So it's beholden on the property owner to maintain their boundary. And when you fail to maintain your boundary, people can actually take your property.
Right.
So that's why you want to make sure that you get a land use attorney to get involved to say, we became aware of this, we need you to remedy it.
Right.
So the planning board, we want to be involved, certainly that we don't put anything on a plan that shows things in the wrong spot, but we can't get involved in a land use dispute between neighbors.
Okay.
And I don't even know that the building inspector, code enforcement,
No, he couldn't.
would have any authority either. I think it would have to be the two. You'd want a land use attorney, because what they can do is they can claim, I think, an implied easement by prior use, I think is what they call it. Not sure though. Again, not an attorney, but I looked into this because I was actually looking to purchase a property that had a bunch of problems like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That was basically in response to our last meeting with you when you had mentioned this.
Yeah, it's good.
In writing,
It's
so-
good. It is good just to have it in writing. We'll put it in the file, so that way then, and if you guys need a copy of it back, because obviously that we've received it.
We have everything, so whatever.
Right, but just that it went to the planning board. The planning board's made aware. The building inspector's been made aware.
Okay,
But definitely, I would follow up with the attorney
okay,
and have them put them on notice that you want it remedied.
right.
Has that happened, or?
I think Sue would like to avoid going with attorney. She was
Hmm.
hoping to just resolve it directly with the owner.
What is it? Is it a
It's-
structure?
The steps?
It's just the steps
Oh,
coming
oh,
out of
okay.
their second floor, and some propane tanks that serve the kitchen. So, as you know, he's renovating now, and he's gonna be upgrading those steps, so we thought perfect
Now's the time.
if you're gonna be rebuilding those
Well,
steps.
that Greg should be able to help you with. Greg, I think
That's why
when
we brought it to his attention.
if they are of their own accord taking the steps down and rebuilding steps, they can't build them on somebody else's
No.
property now that they know.
Right.
So I think you'd be.
So
It would
that's-
help with an adverse possession, because you're basically saying that an easement is implied by prior use, right? So you see the staircase, well, the staircase has been here forever. Well, if you're gonna take the staircase away, well, then there's, then you can remedy it, so.
Okay, so thank you
Okay.
for, responding to it in that fashion.
Sure. Okay, then, new business, we've got nothing, we've got, any public comment? Okay. Board business, so what we have is we have the notice of intent from the HDRB to declare lead agency on the 126.
Is this what you just gave me?
Oh, I don't know, Joy, 126 Main. So, this is unusual because in most cases, the planning board takes lead on seeker because we have the most experience and yada, yada, yada. But I met with Kathleen and Al and I said, this doesn't make any sense this time. I think for the old Presser building as well, I think that they should have really been lead agency as well, because so obviously the biggest things, what seeker really does is it looks at the environmental impacts, right? And one of the big environmental impacts would be to lose a historic building on Main Street, right? Then the mitigating factors to address that impact, which would be the change itself is considered an impact, the visual change is considered an impact, the village character is considered an impact. So all the mitigating factors to address those are all happening at the HDRB. So I said, I know this makes you nervous, but it has to be here. It would be a disservice to the applicant to have them in the planning board, having us talking about things we don't have any purview over, only to come back and forth. So I said, I realize that you guys haven't done it. The vast majority of what happens is done by the attorney, by John, and John's very good at seeker and land use. I think he's great. I think he's been one of the most clear ones that we've had as far as this is how it goes. He's really easy to follow.
Consistent, too.
He's just very clear on this stuff. Not the least of which is being that anything that happens in a national or local historic district is a type 1 action, not exempt, right? They've been doing a lot of exemptions, and we need to, it's always best to go to this, so if the state ever looks to just say, we're performing seeker. A lot of times performing seeker is just filling out the form, half of it says not applicable,
Right.
right? And then you sign off and you say, okay, we've determined that there's a, that
Is
there's.
this what they did last time? That he said?
We reviewed the process,
Oh.
and the timing, sequencing, who acts when, and.
With John first?
No, John wasn't there. I sent him a list of questions. I CC'd you on
Yeah.
that. He's away.
But yeah, but he hasn't responded yet, right?
No,
Yeah.
no. So the historic review boards responded to the best of their ability to some of those questions.
And that was clear to you that it is to the best of their ability? Because, I mean, this is not,
Oh,
yeah,
they
I
made
mean,
it- They made it clear where
Okay.
they didn't know, what they did know, and, yeah, they made it
or what they
very-
think that, yeah.
Correct. And we talked about.
Because it's very new for them. Like I said, they've exempted pretty much most of the actions there. I think they're not even typically even filling out a seeker form. And that, the prior council supported that, the prior general council, the village attorney rather, supported that. So now we're kind of doing things a little bit differently,
Yeah.
which is always better for the state, because you can just say, it was type 1, we filled out the long form, we issued a neg deck, right? That's what's gonna happen.
I'm not sure we're completely on with that, because I've been to a lot of the meetings, and there are a lot of projects that are in the national district that are
Being exempted.
sent right to take 2, but that's not for me to say.
Yeah, I can't, we are, independent boards, independent of the village, not independent of the village rather, but independent of, elected officials, and so we're supposed to be operating independently. So sometimes that's the good and the bad of it.
Yeah.
But I think what we'll seek to do is look for things that we're gonna exempt, that we can exempt, that we can define to the state to say these are exempt actions, a like-kind window replacement, a door,
Exactly.
a porch restoration. You can just take those things and say, we are gonna exempt these things.
Right.
But when somebody says, we wanna, like the Presser building, which was de-skinned and then moved and then raised, and that's not an exempt action. I mean,
No, and I'm not saying I disagree with the ones that they did classify as I do is the last one.
Yeah.
I didn't disagree, it's just I know that if it's a policy that everything in the national district, like either it's isn't, but like I said, I don't disagree because most of the applications I was referring to were very simple modifications.
Well, that's what you need to
so-
do. You need to come up with your own exemptions to the type 1. That doesn't mean it's not a type 1. It's a type 1, but it's an action that the village has exempted.
Right, so
from
what were you
secret review.
previously referring to, just earlier in this conversation where you said there are no exceptions, if it's in the national district, it's a type?
That's John's interpretation, John First, the village attorney,
Oh,
that
okay.
if it is in, not only in a district, but adjacent,
Uh-huh.
if it abuts the district,
Right, okay.
that it's considered to be potentially impactful and a type 1 coordinated review.
Okay,
That's my reading of it as well. I'm not an attorney, but when I read it, I say that seems very obvious to me. When John came on board, when John First was hired as the village attorney, he said if it's in the district or it's adjacent to the district, it's a type 1. But what they can do, for, like I said, for things like kind of siding replacements and things
Right.
like that,
yeah.
you can list those things in your standards as exempt from seeker review.
So
Because
that's
they're-
a starting point that you're
right.
working away from, okay.
So that was a conversation that I had with the co-chairs of the village, of the
Makes sense
HDRB,
to
because
me.
I said, it's really a disservice to be sitting in front of us. The only impacts that we have, because this is the only project we may ever see that can manage all their parking on site, right? We'll probably never see another one of those, certainly not in the B1, right? And so that's resolved. There is no environmental impact. The only other issues are stormwater management and potential hazardous runoff from the asphalt into the brook, right? Those two things, while they're impacts and there's going to be mitigations, there's going to be mitigating actions, we're not qualified to design or even review those mitigating actions. We're going to need an engineer, right? So I said there's not really a whole lot that the planning board can add to the analysis. You're going to take that you're potentially taking a two-story structure, replacing it with a slightly even smaller two-story structure with a smaller footprint. So I said, we don't really, and you're managing all the parking on site. We have minimal impacts, and the only impacts we do have that we're gonna need to see mitigating actions to, if you were to issue a negative declaration, would be things that are gonna be addressed by an engineer. So I said, we can't even talk without an engineer. I said, because we don't really have, you're gonna manage the parking, right?
Right.
You know,
And
so-
just to clarify, did you say the new footprint is a little smaller? It's
Isn't it?
actually- No, it's bigger.
Oh, it is bigger?
Yeah. yeah.
Oh, so you go deeper, is that what you're
We go
doing?
deeper.
Oh, you go deeper, okay. I thought, okay, very good.
I just wanted to clarify that, make sure I heard you.
But yeah, it's not,
correctly.
but for us, that's not really an impact, I mean,
It's not a significant increase and the use isn't changing in terms
and that's
of-
the big thing too, right, you're exactly, that's a big piece, I missed that, it's the uses are identical, right? It's retail on the bottom, it's residential on the top, and all the parking's on site, so we don't really have any impacts to really talk about, and the only mitigating actions that can be taken have to be given to us by an engineer or reviewed by what their engineer provides us. So I talked to Al and Kathleen, and I said, the chair and co-chair of the planning board or the HDRB respectively, to say, you have to be lead agency. It just doesn't.
I agree. Do you agree?
Yeah.
Let's vote.
Yes, do we have a motion to waive our right for lead agency, to allow the HDRB to be lead agency on 126 Main Street?
I like the motion.
second.
All in favor?
Yay.
Aye. Okay, very good.
Can we go
Um,
now?
I think so, yeah.
May I ask one more question?
Sure.
Just pertaining to planning and the site planning. I'm not gonna present the project today, I'm not quite ready, but the issue of screening and fencing came
Oh,
up
yeah.
at our
Yeah.
first meeting. So I just wanted to reference the section of the code to you guys
Mhm.
that basically turns it back to the planning board, and that's, you can read, I don't have to read it to you, but where a business district directly borders a residential, you're required to have screening along the lot line at a minimum height of 5 feet. That can either be fencing or planting, and it's kind of at the discretion of the planning board.
So you don't have to go to the zoning board on that?
No. There's-
That's interesting, this is the first time I've seen that. Clyde, you saw it?
Yeah, well, I think since it's in the district and it's visible from a public right-of-way,
Well, we'll have to have it approved by historic review board.
right,
Without question, any fencing. And just so you know, because we're not ready to present the site plan, when we do come, we'll have a proposal for, our intent right now is a combination of plantings and fencing. And we're actually gonna reach out to the neighboring property owners, each of whom have different types of fencing. So rather than it become a hodgepodge or us putting a fence backing their fence, et cetera, we want to kind of talk to everyone, look at what's going to work best as a combination of both. For example, to the east, there's a fence that's falling down, but that's kind of a prime location for a fence because it borders a very beautiful backyard where they would certainly want privacy. And then there's a fence that's in very good shape on the property behind that. So we don't want to double that up with a fence on our property, so there we'd like to do planting. And so as part of our discussion with you, where their fences exist or where they need to be replaced, we want to talk about planting, but maybe not to have to put 5-foot planting, 5-foot high planting or higher in front of a 6-foot fence that exists and is in good shape. So we'll work on that to
Mhm.
present to you at the next meeting, but that's just kind of what we're addressing right now.
yeah, I think the code mostly speaks to light pollution and noise and kind of, and kind of just the quiet enjoyment,
Right.
especially because you're abutting residential.
Yeah, we don't want headlights going right into somebody's
Right.
kitchen.
Right, so, I'm not aware that the planning board can approve a 5-foot fence, although I don't know how Dunkin' Donuts have it, I'll just take a look.
Well, I think, as I read that, and we can ask John to look at that as well, but as I read it, screening of a minimum height of 5 feet on the lot line is required.
Right.
So whether it's fence
Or
or
hedge, right.
hedge is up to the
doesn't sound like
planning
it has to get to us. I mean, it says it's their right, or their requirement.
To screen, right,
do
but
it.
but whenever you have a contradiction in your code, if everywhere else the code says, a fence cannot be more higher than 4 feet, you have to address
But it doesn't in the B1 district. The 4 foot is a residential restriction.
That's,
Yeah, it's not, there's no.
it's silent.
Correct.
It's silent. It's not that it's not that it says it approves higher fences, it's that it's silent about the 4. Yeah, I don't know that that really means. I mean, the code is just choppy, right? It's, it's the chapters get kind of cobbled together,
Right,
and
but in that
there's
case-
code, there's the code, which you start with, and then you also go to things like master plans and comp plans and underlying documentation to say what was the legislative intent of the code, because the code is almost never a clean document that's 100% right, or even anywhere near 100% right.
Right. But
Ours
this
is
a
pretty
clear
south of.
indication for the B1.
It's screening of hedging or fence, right?
Of 5 foot minimum.
Right.
On the lot line.
Understood.
So, I mean, I don't know, so, and it seems to be something, I'll certainly bring it up at the zoning board meeting when we see them next, but that seems to clearly state that the planning board has input on what that should be, fencing or hedge.
If the planning board requires it.
Screening shall consist of, as may be required by the planning board, right?
Yeah. And that may be how Dunkin' Donuts was done, is just to say that in instances where you have like an incompatible use, right, where the impact to quiet enjoyment, do you remember? How
Yeah, we
how the tall wood
required
fence?
between the residential house and the
Because it
Dunkin'
was-
Donuts.
Because.
But that was all
Henderson's-
hedges.
Oh, it
But
was,
then there's a tall
plantings,
fence
right.
back by you,
Trees.
right? Isn't in the rear of the property, there's a tall,
There's a fence at the Dunkin' Donuts.
that's what we're talking about.
It was
Yeah.
because we were concerned about light and sound. We wanted,
Oh, it's a screen from the vehicles in the drive-through?
and the machine.
So that's kind of where it comes into play. It isn't that the applicant says, I'd like a 5 or a 6 foot fence. It's the planning board that says, I want to see a 5 foot or 6 foot fence. That's where the planning board has the authority to do that,
Right, okay, so, but it,
as may be required. That's the operative.
although before, the sentence before says it shall be screened. Any permitted non-residential use shall be screened
Yeah,
along
this is
any such
optional.
Yeah.
lot line. And then it says by fencing or hedge, so I almost take it as you have to have some sort of screening. And whether it's a fence or a hedge
It
is
could
up
be,
to the
yeah.
planning board. But I don't know, it's obvious, the first sentence would imply that you have to have it. The second would say.
Yeah, and back to the first part, which is the code often contradicts
Right.
itself.
I would really just double check in with the chair of the zoning board.
Yep.
Just.
Well, they have the application as well.
Oh, they do?
Yep. Because
Oh.
you're gonna need at least a front yard, right?
Yeah, we definitely have an application.
But they may not even be aware of this if it,
Though they should be looking at the whole, yeah, but I'll let Greg know.
yeah.
I'll address it with them. too.
Okay.
I'm hoping they'll meet next week.
They're the fence experts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
So
we'll-
one way or another, we'll work it out.
Right, and then we'll get back to you with respect to scheduling, because obviously we have to have the consultant before, there's no point in presenting a project. And we also don't want to get too far out of sequence, approving what is a mitigating action to a potential yet to be approved demolition doesn't seem wise to me, right? To start talking about, we're way out here when actually the thing is here. What I don't want to do is, John had made the statement, well, you just have to be very careful about warning the applicant that you're not approved. I said, well, it seems to me that if you need to warn people, you probably should find a different way
Right.
to do it. If it requires warning and constant, constant qualifiers, it's best to just say, well, we're not really at that stage yet. So at a minimum, we're going to need a consultant, because to review this, the site plan is very straightforward, right? I mean, it's, but really what's going to have to be done is really the EAF with respect to stormwater and runoff into the brook.
Right, and in terms of your consultant, because they were talking about hiring AKRF, an environmental planning firm,
Yep.
And they're also gonna consult with a structural engineer.
AKRF is a one-stop shop.
Okay, so you might wanna let them know if they have structural engineers.
They have
as
everything,
well.
yeah.
Um,
I talked to them
so-
about AKRF. I talked to
Okay.
Kathleen.
So.
There's a few of them
that-
out there. B&L is a full-service one, Barton and LaJudas.
I mean,
AKRF is another good one. It's, they go from the city all the way up. Mike Carr is working on some projects, but he doesn't have.
He's working on
He's
it.
working with you, so obviously that doesn't work. And can pull in an environmental if he needs one. He's structural, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, he can pull in an environmental. AKRF is like a one-stop shop, so.
Okay, I don't think they thought that they were a one-stop shop. I think they were thinking they would.
I let the village board know. I heard from a few of the trustees.
Okay,
And I said it's the easiest engagement to make because then you're not doing multiple engagements.
right, so that was my question.
Yeah.
They would be your consultant as well.
They,
As an environmental consultant, would they be
it,
looking at?
it would be, yeah, right.
So, yeah, I'm just trying to get a handle on all the consultants that are gonna be pulled in, but it sounds like AKRF would be one consultant who could look at everything
Yeah.
for all boards. That's
With my experience with them, I've used them out on the island, I've used them here, I've used them in the city. And they actually have an office up here.
Uh-huh.
They're a one-stop shop. They can kind of pull folks in and it becomes less expensive and faster that
Yeah.
way than trying to get like a bunch of different folks. I mean, you save like pennies and fees here and there, but yet the other one has to learn the entire project
Right.
to come up to speed. So
Yeah, we're all for efficiency and cost.
yeah, they're good and they are efficient and they're reasonable. They're actually, I know when we bid them out for Butterfield, they were considerably less.
Did they provide an estimate ahead of time?
I don't think they do. I think they basically just give an hourly rate.
Okay.
Is what they do. They might be able to, to give an estimate of the number of hours. I mean, it's a fairly straightforward EAF. I just don't know where the runoff goes.
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Hopefully they're gonna say, oh, you put a curb up, you drive it towards a dry well, you can't let the water go into the brook. I would imagine that's what's gonna happen, but I have no
Well, she had
idea.
already said they were planning
Yeah.
dry wells, so.
Yeah. And
The dry wells,
so-
right, but I mean, keeping the asphalt from running into.
Mhm.
And that's kind of
And we're
the,
also looking into other paving materials, but most likely our desire would be to pave the parking area with concrete versus asphalt. But Beatty and Watson is working on that, and their engineers are researching, toxins that could potentially come on as runoff and
Oh,
feed
okay.
into that. And so when we're ready to present all of that, I'm hoping Glenn will appear so he can answer more knowledgeable
Okay, very good.
those questions. And so the reason, just in terms of, we understand, like, nobody really wants to look at this till the EAF is done. And just to explain, our goal to try and present to the boards as we're moving along is because we know it's never one meeting and it's done. And so to have feedback from the boards, like our first meeting with you was extremely helpful. You kind of pinpointed your concerns, the drainage, the runoff into the stream. And, you may have others, but those seem to be the ones. So we're already working on that.
Yep.
And that's our goal by meeting with you, even though we know there's no final answer till we have the permission. So,
yeah, let me talk to John about that. John his advice to the HOB is just make very sure that you're constantly warning them that you're not approving this structure.
I said that last
And I
time.
said that it just seems to me there's got to be a better way if it requires warnings. But I hear you. It is good to at least get an upfront. But I'd be going into rolling out a set of plans on stormwater management and runoff into a brook in front of the 3 to 5 of us. I mean, we'll look at them. But I mean, I wouldn't want to give the impression that it's moving towards an approval when we don't even have a consultant engaged, right? I think it's clear now who's lead, right? So we know we can't take action until the lead agency has taken final action. We
Right.
can't take an action. So we have to wait for them anyway.
Yeah,
And they're doing a coordinated review of the whole thing.
right. And
Because
we-
that means you gotta go all the way through the demo decision, right, which is gonna require a public hearing.
Yeah,
And then move on to the mitigating factors and running an EAF.
well, so here's the way it seems like it's gonna unfold. FaceTime meeting with John first, and we have 4 applications out right now.
Oh, you did meet with John?
He was
At
at
the
the.
pro- okay, yeah.
So we have an application to the HDRB for demolition, a
Right.
separate one for new construction, our site plan application, and our area variance application. So we have 4 applications out now.
Right.
And because it's a coordinated review, we had to present to you, what our proposed plan
Mhm.
is, even though we know it might change. So, yes, the EA has to happen and resolve before anyone can take an action. We understand that. But, for example, for the HDRB, they actually have to have at least a vague understanding of what we're proposing before they can approve the demolition, potentially, we hope, because that's the mitigating factor.
That's what I explained, that's what I
So-
explained to you and Sue at the beginning. I said, I'm not entirely convinced. You need to understand what the fenestration is and the siding and the roof lines.
Right.
I think, I don't believe it's, in my opinion, I don't believe it's segmentation if you say it's a building of this size, of this height,
Right.
right, that is, it's always gonna be subject to HDRB review anyway.
Right,
Right? So I mean, I don't know that really the negative deck
right.
really needs to know exactly what that building looks like, right? Because, because they're very concerned about segmentation. I said, I get it, but I don't know that segmentation means you have to know what windows are going in the building in the replacement building. I said, I think, because everything's gonna be subject to HDRB review
I
anyway.
agree, and that can take a very
Yeah.
long time, as we know. And
So I'm not sure which way they're going. I haven't met with them because there've been some vacations as well there. So I shot Kathleen an email. I spoke to some of the trustees this morning about AKRF and how this kind of works. So we should let them get a consultant engaged and then come up with a timeline. It's completely reasonable to ask for a timeline, right? Once they have a consultant on board. It's the first time they've done Seeker. Seeker has very timed steps.
Right.
30 days, 60 days, 120 days. I mean, it's just everything kind of has to, because the state wants to see that it moves through in a reasonable amount of time.
Right. Yeah, I feel confident from last night's meeting that they're doing everything they can to move it forward. Hopefully, next week, ZBA will do what you've done tonight. And they are already working to get consultants on board. As soon as they do, and they have confirmed lead agency status, then we're gonna they're hopefully gonna schedule a special meeting just to directly talk about that, so they can put the time necessary in, because they always have such packed agendas. Hard to do that at 10:30
Yeah.
focus. So I think they are moving ahead at
Okay,
as quick
great.
a pace as
Excellent.
possible. And so I will keep you posted when I feel we have something worth presenting, and if you are available and willing to meet, we'd appreciate that, because I do think any feedback we get does help us work on things in the meantime, and we completely understand nobody can act or approve anything until, we have
Right.
the EAF completed and the blessing to building. But just like discussion about fencing and hedging, I mean, if we have a direction and we really haven't talked to your board about that in depth, or presented a plan, and you have a strong feeling about that, we'd like to know, so then we can spend the time coming up with alternatives if necessary, versus waiting and having this happen.
I have no strong feeling. I just want to make sure Greg is happy. He is the fence man.
Oh, so,
Right,
yeah.
Yeah, so of course we'll bring that up with him, and that's our goal with the zoning board too, like if somebody has a strong feeling about something, we want to know now so we can start working on addressing it
Right.
versus waiting till October to meet with them for the first time because we're waiting.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the question is really how much will change as the HDRB goes through their design phase of the building. It's probably not likely that screening would change all that much, because you're not doing anything in the rear of the property, the whole thing's a parking lot.
Right.
Which is not great for people in the backyards. I mean, we are gonna have to consider screening.
I know, it's pretty much a parking lot now, but it just.
But it was very
Isn't
quiet.
defined.
Yeah, it was a pretty quiet parking lot though. I mean, I don't remember seeing hardly anybody pulling in and out since I've lived here.
Yeah.
Do you?
I did once.
Did you? It seems like everybody walked into the florist, or I don't see any. Yeah, I mean, it was. So
And
this is
that's
good.
why, you know,
yeah.
we definitely plan to meet with all of the neighbors because, you know, she wants to be a good neighbor and.
Yeah, I guess you have two residences there. The other one is obviously going towards the commercial.
Actually,
rear
the
and the-
entire back is residential. Silver Spoon is not, but the houses down Garden Street, back her property.
Oh, it's more than
are
one?
There,
Yeah. She showed us it.
Yeah.
Kinda.
you wanna look at, but there's 3 on Garden Street, and then Bob McCaffrey's, which is residential, and then there's a Church Street, because her
Yeah.
lawn's so long. So
Right.
basically, with the exception of Silver Spoon, everything's residential.
Right. So I mean, the way I kind of read, I think Arnie read it the same way. It's at the discretion of the planning board whether or not it's a fence or hedging.
Mhm.
And I actually agree with Judith to just say I'd really rather get the blessing of the zoning board because they're the ones that have to live with, you know, every so often we've got somebody, you know, going through the village, you know, doing a survey of 5 and 6 foot fences to then say, look, right, you're not enforcing your own code. You need to give me a 6 foot fence. I've got the neighbor from hell claim that's the most compelling ever. You know, and then you have to, no, that's actually a real claim because that's, you know, that, sometimes neighbors, you know, fences make the best neighbors. But it's great, you know, it's great. I like the fact that we don't do a lot of fencing. My whole neighborhood, I think, our whole block is open, right? Yeah, as far as I know, yeah, all the way to church, from one end to the other. I said our whole neighborhood is unfenced, you know, so I mean,
Yeah. And that's kind
but,
of-
and I think that's kind of the village character, and I think that's why it's in the HDRB code. I think that's why it's in the code.
And that's honestly our feeling, because when you go into the property, like, there are some areas which it just feels like it should have a fence, and there are other areas, like, even though the parking backs right up to the houses on Garden Street, they have such small backyards, a 6-foot fence might make them feel like
Oh,
they're
closed in.
closed
Yeah.
versus, like, right now, there are chain link fences, and they're like, there are 2, like, 6 inches apart, they're filled with debris and everything, so, you know, obviously, we want to rectify, be good neighbors, and
Right.
so we'll have discussions with them, present something, and obviously take your.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you for your time. It was more than
Thanks.
5 minutes. Sorry, Judith.
I got this big bushel of pears I have to cut up.
Oh, go for it, go for it.
From your own tree?
Yeah.
Okay, so the next meeting then is tentative unless you hear from us and we have some pressing thing.
Okay, yeah, I think we're a little tentative too. Are you
Yeah.
around?
In terms of.
Yeah, I'm around, but I don't know if
Yeah.
anyone else is.
Okay. I think Dave might be back. Ezra's gonna be back, but Ezra may move. Once Ezra moves out of the village.
I've seen his house, he's not moving
Yeah, that
anytime
doesn't
soon.
look like anytime soon, right? Yeah, exactly. That's what I was just thinking. He said September, but I'm like, I don't think it's gonna be
Oh, no.
September. Not of this year anyway.
Yeah, I believe he's Sue's neighbor. He said he's really like going to town.
Oh my God, I saw him out
It's
there
the-
working so hard.
Yeah, it's a family affair.
It's great, good for him.
All right, very good, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
All righty, we have a motion to adjourn.
I move, we adjourn.
Very good.
Second.
We are adjourned.